Okay, let's dive a little deeper into Roll20 itself. There is a lot of functionality and a lot of utility built into Roll20. However, we're probably not going to use a majority of it because we're actually going to rely much heavier on D&D Beyond's functionality. So more or less, Roll20, we're only going to use the bare minimum features just so that we can all see the same thing when we're adventuring through a dungeon, going through a town. It allows me to show you what monsters look like, and it's also really good for tactical purposes on the map. So when you first log in, you'll see a map. You obviously won't see this map. This is a different game that I played last year. This is based off of the restaurant Wendy's Feast of Legends games that we played. It's a lot of fun, but I'm just using this as an example. Once you're in here and you're on the map, you can actually see that you can scroll around on the map, you can move up and down. If there is any kind of fog of war in place, the Dungeon Master may block out certain areas from your view, but you can move up and down, you can zoom in and out with these buttons and icons, and the tokens themselves actually have some information. So if you select your token, only you will have access to these little circles that appear at the top. Those are quick display information that both you and your Dungeon Master will be able to see. And what those will relate to is this one is your health. The green, we'll be using that for health. And the blue we'll be using for armor class. That's just an easy reference guide so that you don't, every time during battle, you don't have to pop over to your character sheet to be able to know what's going on. So that's what those are for. There could be spells or different armor that increase or decrease your armor class. So you can actually just type in 16, hit enter, and that updates that field. For health, it's very similar. You can either type in the new amount, or if your Dungeon Master says, hey, you took 5 points of damage, you just type in -5, hit enter. It updates here. It does the math for you. It also updates your health bar that's below. And then once I click on it, I can move it around these grids. Now I can move it two different ways. I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard, and that's a nice snap to grid function to where it goes one square at a time, whichever direction I press my arrow keys. I highly recommend that because it's just a little bit easier to maneuver. And the squares are important. The squares roughly are about 5 feet, and your character will have a speed. So if your character has 20 feet of speed on their turn, that means they could only move that number of squares before they can stop. It also matters for range. If you have a ranged weapon, if you have an arrow attack that only can do 60-foot range, then you'll know if the monster is within range based off of the amount of squares. Another fun way to determine range that's a little bit easier is you actually have a set of tools on this left-hand side. Now I have more options because I'm the Dungeon Master on this particular game. You won't have quite as many, but a few that you will have is this measurement tool. So you click there. What you do is you go from the center. Let's say this is my character and I want to know if my range spell attack can reach this monster. I click in the middle of my character and I drag, and that will tell me, oh, the monster is about 35 feet away, and my spell has a range of 50 feet. That means I can easily attack them. Another feature is if for whatever reason there is a time that the Dungeon Master will ask you to roll a specific dice that you don't have easy access to on your D&D Beyond sheet, you can also do any number of dice rolls here for any type of dice. So if I needed you to roll 3 d8s, you go to the d8 and go over to 3. If I click on that, it actually rolls it here. You can see in the chat my results. So it actually shows each individual dice what their individual scores were, and then it gives me a total. That's not going to happen very often, but I just want to let you know that tool is there. Finally, my favorite tool, because I am a druid that has a lot of area of effect spells, I can do lots of terrain spells that can cover a certain area to be able to entangle multiple enemies at a time or one large enemy. There actually is this draw tool, so it makes it easier for both you and the Dungeon Master to know where your spells are on the field, if they have any kind of lasting effects, or if they affect terrain, or whatever the case may be. You're able to actually draw. So what you could do is you could draw a shape. I believe it defaults to a square. Let's say that my Frosty character has a area of effect spell that allows me to cast a 20-foot cube onto an area that entangles the enemy, everybody in that 20-foot cube, with vines to where that it has a potential to disable their movement. Okay, so first thing you want to do, like I said, you want to check your range. Let's say it's a range of 50 feet. He's in range. All right, so I can use the spell. So I'll go over to my draw tool, and again, these squares are about 5 feet each. So you get 5, 10, 15, 20. So it's going to be a 20-foot cube. So that's 20 across, 5, 10, 15, 20 up. All right. So, and that is based off of the color is going to be based off of what my character's color is, and that makes it, it's just an easy reference. So now both you and the DM knows in this 20-foot cube there's entangling vines. Anybody that enters that area is going to be affected by that spell. Now if you choose the select tool, you can actually grab that. Some spells allow you to, on a later turn, move that area of effect to a different location within, say, 60 feet. You can do that. That's useful if the monster, let's say, somehow gets out of the grasping vines and he runs over to this side. He's trying to run away. On your next turn, you could move the area of effect. If the spell allows you to, you could move the area of effect if you wanted to. If for some reason your area of effect gets smaller or larger, you can do that as well. So that's just a great way to show area of effect spells, or any kind of spell that has a lasting effect, even if it's only affects like a single square, which that sometimes can happen. We can do that as well, and it just makes it easier for everybody to know what's going on and what's going on in the field. And then once it goes away, you or the DM can just select it and hit the delete key or the backspace key on your keyboard. So that's just an overview of what the map is going to look like, how to interact with tokens, what your tool sets are available, and that's pretty much it. Now, like I said, during a battle, you'll have your turn order here. The DM will control how that's organized, but that's just an easy way for you to know, all right, so let's say that Kai Kai of the Chaco Plains is my character, and I know, you know what, there's going to be 3 people that's going to make a turn before me, so I've got some time to strategize and read through my spells. However, if I'm Spice the Ostracize, I know that I'm next, so I really need to know what my attack is going to be. So that's just really helpful there. And there you have it. That is the basics of Roll20, how to interact with it and its tools, and you should be all ready to go.